Hi, everyone. Attorney Kara Tanis here from Kelly Grant & Tanis. Today's topic is one of pressing concern for many of us. Why has Florida condo ownership gotten so expensive? Today, we're going to explore the reasons driving up costs of condo ownership. Condos have pretty much become unaffordable for the average family. Traditionally, condos were a great opportunity for first-time buyers looking to achieve their piece of the American dream of homeownership. And this used to be a very achievable goal, with the median price tag of a condo in the Tri-County area of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade hovering just around $130,000 about 10 years ago. Now, the median sales price of that same condo is more than triple that, clocking it at a whopping $500,000. That's $500,000 for 4 shared walls. What exactly is happening here? Statistically, yes, we are living with the effects of inflation, but that's not enough on its own to provoke such a trend. We have to look at a variety of factors, and these are in no particular order or ranking, but some of the key factors are post-Surfside mandatory Sears laws, effective at the end of this year, December 31st, 2024. Supply and demand of building professionals, labor, and cost of materials, location, insurance, and inflation. Let's unpack each of those points. But first, we need to start with some basic terms so that we have a general understanding of the framework. Please keep in mind for the entirety of this video that I am, of course, generalizing all this information from law to plain English, and specifics or exceptions for your particular community should be considered on an individual basis. This is just a global overview and should not be taken as legal advice. SIRS, or Sears, stands for Structural Integrity Reserve Study. Sears blends structural engineering with financial planning. It goes beyond superficial assessments and to the heart of the physical foundation and framework of a building. Think of Sears as your baseline necessities. A reserve. Imagine a reserve like a now mandatory rainy day savings fund for an association. Reserve study. A reserve study is a professional forecast of the useful life remaining on physical items, combined with the expected cost of replacing those items. A reserve study then compares those replacement costs to how much is currently in the association's savings account. It's part budgetary and part physics. A reserve study involves an inspection of the current condition of the physical items versus what they should be at if they were 100% intact. This study can only be performed by a licensed architect or engineer. Useful life. This is the total amount of time a physical item is deemed fit for safe use. Essentially, it's how much time is left before the item gives out. The lifetime for each item varies. For example, the useful life of a metal roof can be 40 years versus a coat of waterproofing might only last 5 years. The average time frame to evaluate most physical items at a condo is 10 years, which leads me to my next and last vocabulary item, a milestone study. A milestone study is similar to a Sears study, but milestone studies take place every 10 years after the initial Sears study is done. Milestone studies can then become the average re-evaluation report. Common structural reserve items are the roof, primary structural systems like joists, T-frames, and rebar, load-bearing walls, fireproofing and fire safety. This can be anything from fire sprinkler systems and flame retardant foam. Exterior painting and waterproofing, like a secondary water barrier. Plumbing, cast iron, PVC piping, fittings, valves, electrical systems, panels and wiring harnesses, and even elevators. The exterior doors. Windows. This could mean any glazed opening or fixed panel, or any element that costs over $10,000 and impacts the building's structural integrity. For example, your building has a pool on the 10th floor. The entire pool system costs more than $10,000 to install and replace, so that would be considered a Sears item. All right, going back to the cost factors. Effective post-Surfside Sears. Without a doubt, the post-Surfside laws are the majority driving force behind increased condo living costs. Everyone probably already knows this, but what does it really mean? Boards are now forced to assess their members for items that used to be funded on a delayed maintenance basis. Condo owners previously had the choice of opting out of paying into the reserve account for full replacement value of the structural items. The former mindset was if there was ever a problem like a concrete pillar collapse, the members would just have dealt with it at the time on an emergency basis. That's just a fancy way of saying condos were allowed to continually kick the can down the road, play the odds that their building wouldn't suffer a catastrophic failure. What most people don't realize, though, is that the default for Florida condos was always to fully fund reserves. The laws were set up that way to begin with. However, the difference is that power was previously held by the members to decide what their finances would look like year after year. Under the old laws, the majority of the owners could decide to pay less than the full replacement value for their structural components. Under the old regime, they could also decide when to pay for those repairs. For many owners, half past never was a more affordable timeframe. Well, unfortunately, half past never did occur on June 24th, 2021, when Champlain Tower South collapsed. And ever since that tragedy, the Florida legislature usurped that financial planning power away from condo owners and essentially said, we know what's best for condo owners. We are going to tell you what you need to spend your money on and when, in order to prevent that, albeit improbable, but still possible, doomsday scenario from ever happening again. Under the new laws, condo owners must pay for the full replacement value of aging structural assets every single budget year. Since the first round of STIRS reports are due by the end of this year, December 31st, 2024, which would be applicable to the next budget year for 2025, we've been feeling the financial pinch for a while now. Another factor to consider is the obvious versus latent costs of implementing STIRS. To put things into perspective, there are approximately 1.5 million condominium associations in Florida, with 40% of them centralized in the Tri-County area of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade. It's one thing to obtain a STIRS report, but it's another issue entirely when it comes to actually completing the identified items in the report. The face value of an engineer or architect to inspect your building and then whip up a STIRS report ranges anywhere from $10,000 to over $100,000, with the average prices I see being around $40,000. Ever heard of the efficiency triangle? The triangle is comprised of three basic parts: good, fast, and cheap. And you can usually only have two of those concepts in play at any given time. Having all three is a lot harder to come by. It boils down to simple supply and demand. You need that STIRS report done like yesterday? Well, there goes fast. And all of the decent 5-star rated professionals are booked for over a year out. Maybe some of the higher priced ones are available right away. But then again, there goes cheap. Let's face it, if money were no object in condos, then we wouldn't even be talking about any of this. Most boards are confined to the prior year's budget for allocation of professional services, like the engineer or architect, pay for that report in the first place. So you'll need to sock away enough money just to pay the engineer or architect for that milestone STIRS report to occur at least every 10 years. Unless you're in a newer building with a recently issued CO, Certificate of Occupancy, chances are the report yielded some level of work that needs to be done. Lest we all be reminded that a copy of the STIRS report must be provided to each and every member as a part of the condominium's official records. Then comes the daunting process of obtaining quotes and bids from qualified professionals to complete all of that work flagged in the STIRS report. Depending on the particular item being repaired or replaced, the price tag and time frame for completion is a huge open-ended question. It could be something easily fixable with minimal costs, like application of a water sealant, or it could be terribly expensive and arduous to finish, like jackhammering up the floors and re-pouring fill because the pitch and the foundation sunk by 5 degrees. Remember, completion of STIRS report items are required parts of a whole. You can't have one component without the other. Most remediation efforts set off a domino effect, and it's impossible to stop halfway through a project. When I say required, I mean your building will not pass inspection if the work is not done, and done correctly. The local county or city will eventually deem it unsafe and maybe even issue an evacuation order as a condemned building. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is the actual scope of work performed matches the original bid spec, and the price stays the same throughout the project. However, on a complicated project, expect the unexpected. That concrete restoration project that had an expected completion date of 1 year then gets stretched out to 3 years. And surprise, They've discovered the plumbing and electrical deteriorated beyond repair, but only after having gutted down the walls to the studs. That's just another thing to add to the list of work to be done. During that perpetual construction project, supply chain shortages of goods and sourcing of raw materials may become an issue. Or the contractor just bit off more than they can chew and becomes insolvent and never finishes the job, but absconded with your hard-earned money. Then the association has to pay double the cost of the same project just to finish it with someone else. Also, there's no standardization of contractors' bids or pricing. Commonly, the same project will receive quotes all over the place. That just makes it so much more difficult to gauge at the outset how much money each member will need to pay to complete the project. Keep in mind, the cheapest is not always the best. These are things well outside of our control that do affect the total price of your association's actual cost of Sears compliance. We have 2 seasons in Florida, summer and construction. So as that never-ending construction project drags on and on, that's about the point in time when most unit owners lose their shirt and can't keep up with the hemorrhaging assessments. The assessments become more frequent and for greater amounts each time. That could be $10,000 or $400,000 or more per unit in any given year. That's just not a digestible figure for most unit owners. If your building was in an otherwise healthy financial condition before SERS laws, your board might have been able to obtain a loan to pay for the repairs all in one shot. Under that scenario, the owners just pay a fixed amount over a set amount of time at a competitive interest rate instead of risking wildly unpredictable special assessments. But many associations don't have that luxury because they wouldn't have qualified for a loan to begin with. And this could be for a variety of reasons, which we won't get into right now. Generally speaking, older buildings need more work because the age of the structure just can't last forever. Might newer condos under 3 stories be the way to go? Insurance. Insurance is another major factor leading to increased cost of condo ownership. Without completion of identified Sears items, condos can't obtain insurance. And being that all condominiums are required to have windstorm and hazard insurance on the physical property, you can't have one without the other, meaning Sears completion and insurance go hand in hand. We are all well aware ad nauseum of the exorbitant cost of insurance premiums in Florida. All but a couple of insurers have pulled out of the state entirely or went insolvent. Several multi-billion-dollar claims have left boards with a take it or leave it policy from the insurer of last resort. The price is the price. There simply aren't any other options but to pay 200% rate spike in premiums. Location. The appropriate adage for real estate is applicable here. Location, location, location. People flock to Florida for the weather. We know this. In South Florida especially, there simply isn't enough desirable land left to build on. It's all been drained or developed already. As a result, any decent location comes with a premium. Multifamily units closer to major infrastructure or in good school districts just cost more, and that's a fact. Lastly, inflation. I'm not going to get into the specifics about what the last 12-month trend was, but I'm just restating a general point. If we're comparing the cost of condo ownership today versus what it was 10 years ago, it's simply more expensive now. That ties back to supply and chain issues and price of building materials that we discussed before. But this time, I want you to consider the concept on a global level. So we have to add back in inflation to some degree as another factor making cost of condo ownership more expensive. So how can you protect yourself? Know your finances. What kind of owner are you? Are you on a fixed income? Do you have a savings to tap into? Are you barely scraping by to get into that condo as your first home? Or are you an investor? Can you weather the storm? Maybe this won't affect you so much then. And distressed condominiums could be a great opportunity for investment as current owners flood the market with undesirable inventory that they're now desperate to dump in a fire sale. Understand Sears. Knowledge is power. Understand the Sears and the financial soundness of an association. I touched on this in a prior video a couple of months ago, but owners are allowed to obtain Sears reports from their associations and view all building renovation contracts, along with reviewing the association's financials. Owners will have to find out if Sears laws even applies to that association, or if there's an exception. Generally, Any condo under 3 stories is exempt. However, the local building code may provide an exception to the exception and still require similar compliance to state Sears laws. Evaluate the age of the building and consider the latent defects that may be lurking around the corner. When was the last time there was a major renovation? If it hasn't been undertaken at all, that's cause for concern. And that could mean tens of thousands of dollars are due very soon. If it's too good to be true, chances are it is. Moreover, my personal belief is that unless and until insurance is reformed in a major way, we won't see relief in that category anytime soon. And something has desperately got to give with insurance in Florida. What happened to one of the 1.5 million condos in Florida? What are the statistics on that? What are the actuaries saying? After all, isn't that what insurance is for? To pay for a catastrophic loss? So why force condos to do all the lifting? If you enjoyed this video, feel free to like and subscribe.